Good morning, Morai, Verabotai, Bruchim, Abayim. We are continuing our Masechet Succah, and we are on Daf Nun, Gimel, Amud Aleph, 21 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Tanya, Amru Alav, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Today's Amud is being learned as a Zechut Refuah Shalema for Rachel bat Edna, Rachel Simcha bat Nahid, Michael ben Nahid, Esther Bracha bat Chaya, Avraham ben Tashgol, and Shira bat Hamda, that you all have Refuah Shalema, Amen. His Amud is also being learned, Lidu Nishmat, Jacqueline bat Avraham, and Ardas. This week's community learning has been dedicated by Shea family, Cohen family, and Dayan families. Should be an ultimate schut for all of their mishpachot, Amen. So we started the process of the tremendous simcha that was going on in the process of Simchat Bet HaShoeva. Mi shelo ra'a Simchat Bet HaShoeva, lo ra'a Simcha miyamav. If you haven't experienced the Simchat Bet HaShoeva, you haven't seen Simcha miyamav. We mentioned the Guinness Book of World Records of juggling flamey torches is really only 7, and the Gemara over here says, Tanya Amru Alav Rabbi Shlomo Gamliel, that he was the real Guinness Book of World Records. Shaya Sameach Simchat Bet HaShoeva Aya Notel Shmona Avukot Shel Or. He would take 8 of them, and he would juggle them Achat Venotel Achat Ve'en Nogod Zubazu, and they would not even touch each other. And when he would do Kidah, he would bow to Hashem. Noet Shne Gudalav Ba'ares, he would put 2 thumbs on earth, bending down, standing up without bending his knees. Ve'shochev noshek et haritzpah, that he would bend and kiss the floor, and he would stand up without falling afterwards. Ve'en kol priya yechola la'asot ken. Now, speaking about world records, the Gemara itself says that nobody could do it. Well, some of the Rishonim hold that at least in his generation, nobody was able, the people who were there in the Mikdash in his generation, nobody else besides him could do it. He was the only one. There certainly was the record in his time in the Beit HaMikdash. Vezuhi Kida. And this is Kida that Chazal talk about. Levi Achvi Kida Kabed de Rabbi Ve'itla. Levi, who was a student of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, he tried showing Kida in front of Rebbe Ve'itla. Now, this is not necessarily the time of the Beit HaMikdash anymore, but they used to do it to make him happy. Rebbe, the Gemara says in Masechet Nedarim, Rebbe was always sad because he had the weight of, actually, that sounded much worse than I meant it to be. The Gemara there says, if Rebbe would show a smile, that day would be a bad Puranut would come, because he always was concerned about the needs of Klal Yisrael weighing down on his shoulders, and because of that there was a certain protection, because Hashem doesn't want the tzaddik, someone in Rebbe's level certainly, to be more sad, more concerned. So therefore that was a shield b'fnei Puranut, but at the same time, like, you need a little outlet, you need a little happiness. So his Talmidim would try to make him happy from time to time, and this is something that Levi was doing. You see, certainly the next Gemara is like that, and Levi did this ve'itla, and he became lame from this experience. Okay? You could imagine the pressure that it puts on a person's sinews and muscles and so on and so forth. And this is what happened. And Gemara says, wait, this was the cause. Ve'hamar Rabbi Elazar le'olam al yatiach adam dvarim klape mala. We know that there was a different reason behind Levi being damaged and becoming lame like this, because Chazal say, Rabbi Elazar le'olam al yatiach adam dvarim klape mala. A person should not speak disrespectfully towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. She'arei adam gadol, even one of the greatest of the sages, Levi was one of the greatest names in his generation. He spoke disrespectfully towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he became lame. Who is this Adam Gadol? Levi. Now, what was this story, by the way? The story was, we actually learned this together. There's a little quick chazara in Masechet Ta'anit, Daf Chaf Hei, that when there was drought, when the Klal Yisrael needed rain, and Levi called a Ta'anit, and davened, and nothing happened. So he said the following, he said, Hashem, you went and you sat up there, and you don't care about us anymore. So those are strong language. The Gemara says that immediately when he said that, he actually was able with this tefillah to be nichmeru rachavei shamayim, that the heavenly compassion was boiled and basically started raining right away after. So the tefillah worked, but still the Gemara says that's not the way to speak. It's not a respectful way when he's speaking towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Again, we have at least two of those examples. You know, in Masechet Ta'anit we had also Rabbi Chaim ben Dorsad, you know, and Choni HaMe'agel, the examples of strong language. The tefillah, Choni HaMe'agel would go inside the circus. I'm not coming out until you start raining. And, you know, it was Ilmaleh Choni Ata, they sent him, the Gedolei Ador, that if you were not Choni, that you're so beloved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I would put you in Cherem for speaking like that. That's how you speak to Hashem. There is an etiquette of how to speak towards Hashem, even in the context of caring for the tzibur. And Moshe Rabbeinu that wanted to speak strongly, preventing the pura'anut from coming on Klal Yisrael, he said, if you're not going to listen to my tefillah, mecherina misifrecha asher katafta, erase my name. He wouldn't go further than that, but speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, saying, you don't care about Klal Yisrael. Obviously, that's very much reminiscent of Moshe Rabbeinu's initial speech when he came and he was denied by Paro from the Geulah, me'az bati el Paro, hera la'am hazeh. It became worse. Even he didn't say hera ta, hera la'am hazeh became worse. V'atzeh lo yitzalta et amecha, you didn't save them. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, okay, ata tireh, you're not going to enter Eretz Yisrael because of that. That's one of the reasons. And that's very much parallel with this Gemara, because just like there, we have Chet of Mem Meriba, that hitting the rock in the 40th year, and towards the end of their experience in Midbar. Because of that, Hashem said, you're not going to enter. So which one is it? And Chazal says both. Here also, the Gemara answers that it's really both of them. And says the Gemara, it's Have Hagar Maleh. Both of these incidents caused it. The reason that he actually had to come this damage to his body physically is because he spoke disrespectfully. The way it happened, the way it was carried out was through attempting to show Kida in front of Rebbe. Now, speaking of Levi and Rebbe, Levi have a Metayel Kameh de Rebbe Betamni Sakini. Another thing that he would do is he had 8 sharp knives and he would juggle them in front of Rebbe, again, to make him happy and de-stress the life of the busy and concerned life of Rebbe, a little bit lighten up. That's what he would do. Says the Gemara, Shmuel Kamesh Shabur Malka Betemania Mazgina. I don't know, I'm not fully aware of Guinness Book of World Records in this one, but Shmuel would do this. Sounds pretty difficult and pretty amazing. He had 8 cups of wine. Imagine glass cups of wine, not empty, right? And he would juggle them in front of Shabur Malka without them breaking, banging to each other, or pouring out. So I'm not sure exactly if there is any Guinness Book of Records for that, but this is how Shmuel would do it. Abaye would do it, but Tmania Bey, he would do it with 8 raw eggs without them breaking, right? And that also say it was only 4. Fine. The Gemara says, Tanya, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Hanania. Yoshua ben Hanania says, K'shahayinu semechim simchat b'tashoeva. The early days of Tanaim. It says, when we were involved with simchat b'tashoeva, Lo ra'inu shena beinenu. We couldn't even go to sleep. It was such a packed day, such packed schedule, we wouldn't even be able to sleep. Ketzat, how's the schedule, the rundown of the schedule was, Sha'a Rishona. Now imagine, this is after a whole night of Simchat Shoeva, dancing and juggling and being happy, culminating with the Ushavte Mayim Besason Mimayanei Yeshua, and then Sha'a Rishona, Tamid Shel Shachar. In the first hour of the day, they would bring Tamid Shel Shachar. It's a whole process of which we already learned partially about. Misham Litfila. From there, they would go to Tefillah. Oh, this is actually very interesting because the Gemara Masechet Brachot that we had together, right, and Daf Chafav, Chav Zayin, the Gemara there said Tefillot Keneget Temidin Tikenum. It's the Tefillot were done by Anshe Knesset Gdolah after the time of the Beit HaMikdash. So the common belief, especially for people who have learned Masechet Brachot, but haven't paid attention to this one word tucked away in Masechet Sukkah Daf Nun Gimel Amud Aleph fame, they will tell you that, well, they didn't daven really in the time of the Beit HaMikdash. Not true. Now, first of all, obviously, according to the Rambam, there's machloket, the general machloket Rambam and Ramban, whether or not tefillah that we daven are the Oraita level or the Rabbanan. According to the Rambam, davening one time a day, like the Gemara Masechet Ta'anit Daf Bet, the very beginning, it is midoraita. Ul'ovdo bechol levavchem. The Gemara says, "Ezehu avodah she'balev." So tefillah, the avodah, the service of Hakadosh Baruch Hu in your heart. Ul'ovdo bechol levavchem is the expectation midoraita, and that is fulfilled by tefillah. Rambam holds that one tefillah a day is the oraita. Ramban holds no, tefillot are the Rabbanan. At least two tefillot, and third is arvit. Arvit was a reshut, and now it's considered nikva lechova. Still Ramban, parenthetically, Ramban also agrees that the tefillah would be deoraita be'etzara. When you're undergoing difficulty, or Klal Yisrael is undergoing difficulty, it's etzara le'Yaakov mimena yivashea, then it will be basar lachem, utkatem b'chasosrod, v'nizkartem lifnei Hashem Elokechem. That tefillah would be the oraita, even according to the Ramban. But nevertheless, we think that the tefillot who were nitken, who were instituted, Kenegat Temidim, were only there after the Churban. Right? The truth of the matter is, you see clearly in this Gemara, that they had a set tefillah even in the time of the Mikdash. It just was not the same nusach. Right? It's not Bonei Yerushalayim, of course it was not the bracha. Right? The tefillah was on kiyum of the Beit HaMikdash, and the safety of Am Yisrael, and coming of the Mashiach. All those things were there, but again, the nusach was slightly different. But that's again tucked away in one word over here in Masechet Sukkah. So says the Gemara, Misham le Korban Musaf. From there we would go to Korban Musaf. Misham le Tfilat HaMusafin. And then, you see, this is very interesting, that they would have the Tfilah by Shacharit, Tamid Shel Shachar first, then Tfilah, but then they would do the Korban Musaf, and then the Tfilah of the Musaf. So that's something to come back to. Misham Litfilat HaMusafin, Misham Lebet HaMidrash. We'll go to what do you do after you're done Tfilah? You go to work, Shalom. Go to Bet Midrash, right? You have to learn. Misham La'achila V'Shtiyah. Then they would have their Suda, Misham Litfilat Mincha. Then they would have Tfilat Mincha again, right? They had not just one Tfilat to say, well, they had to do the Rambam. You see clearly here that they had Shacharit and they had Mincha, right? Misham Litamid Shel Ben Harbaim. Again, the Tfilah here is prior to the actual Korban, Tamid Shel Ben Harbai, Mikan Ve'elach Lesimchat Bet HaShoeva, and then after Mincha Ma'ariv, they would actually go straight to Simchat Bet HaShoeva, and that is a packed day of 24 hours non-stop straight without having the opportunity to rest your eyes and to sleep. And that's why he said that in the time of Simchat Beit HaShoeva, Lo ra'inu shena, we couldn't sleep, right? Now that's a packed schedule. That's obviously true. But there's one massive problem with this. What happens if you don't sleep? Well, you die, right? So therefore, you're not allowed to even do that. The Gemara actually talks about this in more than one place, and the Gemara is going to actually say one of the sharpest ones to ask a question on this memra. Is that true? Can you do such a thing? V'ha'amar Rabbi Yochanan. We know that Rabbi Yochanan said, Shvuah shelo yishan shlosha yamim. If a person takes an oath that he's not going to go to sleep for 3 days, malkino tov yashen altar. We don't even let him do it for 1 day. We don't say, well, let's let him do 1 day, and when he is falling apart, then we will stop him. No, right away, you bring him into the betin, you give him lashes, and you put him to sleep. Why? Because you can't not sleep for 3 days, you die. And therefore, it's a shvuat shav, it's a not a proper usage of your power of oath, and therefore we stop it, we forcefully stop it. Malkiro tov yashen la'altar.
The Simcha Beit Shoeva we're talking about here was every day of Sukkot?
Every day of Sukkot, like we had in the Mishnah, the only machloket was it also on the 8th day by Shmini Atzeret, or was it only the 7 days of Chag HaSukkot? So says the Gemara, Ela Achi Kamar. So it doesn't really mean he didn't go to sleep the whole time. This actually, speaking about taking an oath not to sleep, we have mentioned this in a different occasion, that David HaMelech did this actually, right? David HaMelech did this. If you have a Tehillim here, I'll actually read it to you. If someone could pass me a Tehillim. David HaMelech, when he was excited for the building of the Beit HaMikdash, because it was prompted really by, that doesn't have it, it was prompted by Chiro Melech Tzur, that he sent shiploads of the best Atzei Arazim, the best of the upper shelf right there, yeah. The best wood and the best carpenters he sent to David HaMelech to make a palace for him. And David HaMelech saw this massive palace, the beautiful palace, and he says, I'm not going. I'm going to go to this palace, and the Aron of Hashem, the Ark of the Covenant, is still in an ohel, in a tent. The Beit HaMikdash, the Beit Olamim is not built, and I'm going to such a disrespect that I'm going to go to a palace like this, a beautiful house, and leave that. He took an oath right away, there and then, that I'm not going to enter this house, nor I'm going to put my head to sleep, nor I'm going to take a nap, until I find the rightful place of the Beit HaMikdash. And he didn't go, he exactly did that with the help of Natan HaNavi. They went for days to find the rightful place in the Beit HaMikdash based on the Psukim. And that night he comes home to rest his eyes a little bit, and Hashem sends Natan HaNavi right away. He says, go. Tell him, I want to hear. Friend Lest is going to make another neder that's going to build the Beit HaMikdash tomorrow. Go tell him, I don't want him to build the Beit HaMikdash. I want his son, Shlomo, to build the Beit HaMikdash. And the beauty of it is, David spent the next 35 years of his life amassing wealth that's going to be used immediately when he dies and Shlomo takes over, that he should have all the material, gold, silver, copper, wood, everything that he needs for the structure of the Beit HaMikdash. He had an entire massive otzar of a treasure house that made specifically for the material for building the Beit HaMikdash. But again, nevertheless, just the pasuk here in Shila, it's one of the Shila Malots, right? The last ones, Kuf Lamed Dalet is the Shila Malots. The 15 that we're going to actually speak about momentarily in the Gemara in Amud Bet. So it says in Kuf Lamed Bet, Shir HaMa'alot, Zechor Hashem leDavid et kol unoto. All the difficulties I brought upon myself with simcha for the building of your Bet HaMikdash, Shenishba LaHashem, right? He took an oath for Hashem, Nadar La'avir Yaakov, made a neder. Im avo, what was the neder? Im avo be'ohel beti. If I will step foot in this house, which house? House that Hiro Melech Sur built for him. Im e'aleh al eretz Yesuai. If I will go on my bed to sleep, im eten shenat le'enai. If I go to sleep deliberately, la'afafai tenuma, or I take a nap deliberately, ad emtza makom la'Hashem mishkanot la'avir Yaakov, until I find the place for the rightful place for Mishkanot la'avir Yaakov and makom la'Hashem. So that's the neder. So that actually helps the question of the Gemara. It's asur to do that. If you make an oath, says Rabbi Yochanan, right, we will not be so happy with you. So says the Gemara, no, this is what he said. Lo ta'amnu ta'am shena. It means we didn't really go to sleep. We didn't taste the taste of a proper sleep. You know, you're falling apart. You put your head, you're sitting, you put your head on the shoulder of the next guy for 2 minutes. You wake up, you know, enough not to die, and then you keep on trucking. That is what happened. So says the Gemara, this you could say again, say same thing with Yaakov Avinu. Didn't go to sleep for 14 years. No, he didn't go to bed for 14 years, right? He would fall apart wherever he was on his Gemara. He would wake up and take a strong coffee. Next, you know, that's how it was. He didn't prep himself in a bed with a swan pillow and go to sleep. He was working. He was at work, hard at work, to learn and to grow. So it says the 15 steps that the Beit HaMikdash had. We just spoke about the 15 Shir HaMa'alot. So it says the Gemara, Amale Rav Chisda Lahum Rabbanan Ta'avukam Misader Agadata Kameh. So he said to this Talmid Chacham that was organizing the agatas in front of him, Rav Chisda speaking to him, this 15 ma'alot, the Shir HaMa'alot, keneged mi amaram David. Right? He said it keneged mi. Amale, hachi amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said the following story is what happened. B'sha'ash kara David shitin. When David HaMelech dug shitin. So now this is actually coming to full circle with what we saw, and that's why I wanted to read the Tehillim with you. David HaMelech was prevented from being able to build it, but he prepared it. So this, according to this Mandamar, him built the Beit HaMikdash, but he even dug the shitin to be able to prepare the Nisuch HaMayim, Nisuch HaYayin, for happening when his son will build the Beit HaMikdash. This Mandamar, Rashi says, does not hold that shitin, shit, barashit, bereshit is barashit, that it was created from Sheshet Bereshit, either that or that it was there, it got filled with dirt and whatnot throughout the millennia, and now David HaMelech uncovered it, redug it, and created it again. Says the Gemara, Kafat Tehoma. What happened was he hit the deeper sources of water, and Kafat Tehoma, the Tehom, the inner pocket source of water that he connected with started flooding the area. It was becoming dangerous for people who were there. Amar David 15 ma'alot. David HaMelech said the 15 Shir HaMa'alot, and Horidan, he took them down. The 15 was said to subdue and lower the level of this water that was flooding the area. Fine. So says the Gemara, Yachi 15 ma'alot, yordot mi ba'ile. What do you mean 15 ma'alot? Right? It should be coming down, not ma'alot. What's shir la ma'alot? Ma'alot is you're taking it up, not down. Right? So what's shir la ma'alot? So says the Gemara, you're correct. Amale, hoil bat kartan mitab. Haki itbar. He says, really, this is how I was saying. You're correct. I overly simplified and encapsulated this story. What really happened was the following. B'sha'ah shekara David shitin. When David was digging, the shitin kafa teom ha'ba lemishtef alma. The teom overflew, it came up basically, and was flooding the area. It was dangerous for people who were living there and so on. Amar David. And David HaMelech wanted to stop this. How do you stop such a thing? Well, David HaMelech knew how to use Shem HaMeforash. He wanted to do it. Well, in order to use the Shem HaMeforash, you have to throw the Shem HaMeforash inside this water. And as a process of that would be disrespectful to the Shem, right? Perhaps be erased, perhaps be disrespected. So Amar David, Mika de Yada, is there anyone that knows the halacha? Ishari nemichtav sheva chasva. I want to know if it's mutar for me to write Shema Meforash on a piece of clay. And I'll throw it in and it will stop the source of water. So it says the Gemara, Leka lekamar lemidi. Nobody was there to say anything to him. Nobody said anything. Amar David HaMelech was no pushover. So he said, I'ika kol de yada lememar ve'eno omer. If there is somebody that knows halacha, could learn it from one of the Yud Gimel Midot, you could bring a raya, you could prove that it's mutar, and you don't, yechanek bigrono, he should be choked. Right? That's a king. She says the Gemara, Nasa Achitofel kavachomer ba'atzmo. Achitofel was the one that he made a kal vachomer. He said, well, let's see. It should be mutar. Why? Uma lasot shalom ben ish leishto amra Torah shemi shenichtav b'kedusha yimacheh al hamayim. In the story of Isha Sota, when the husband is suspecting the wife of being unfaithful, they bring the husband brings her in the Beit HaMikdash, and the process of proving her innocent involves writing an entire parashat Sotah with the name of Hashem on it and erasing it into the water in order to bring shalom ben ish leishto. So if you could do that for one family's shalom bayit, forget about life. The Torah says, Shemi shenichtav b'kedusha, you bring it, you erase it, alamayim, la'asot shalom lechol ha'olam, to bring peace to the entire world, entire region, to save them from this catastrophe. Alachat kama v'chama. That should be certainly a kal v'chomer. Amales, therefore, Achitofel tells David HaMelech, Shari mutar. Now, by the way, just in parentheses, we mentioned that, again, this is the beginning of the reign of David HaMelech before Achitofel turned his back against David. But one Mamara Musgar that you can't not mention in parentheses when you pass this Gemara is a reminder of the Gemara that says, a Chacham shekilel, a Chacham that gives a klala, even bechinam, even al tenai, even if it's conditional, that klala will come. So here, what did he say? He said, if you know it and you don't say it, you should be choked on your neck. Who remembers what happened at the end of life to Achitofel? He hung himself, right? This is, again, when he was already an advisor to the second side, to the dark side, right, of Shalom, against David HaMelech, wanting to kill David HaMelech. The last advice that he gave to Avshalom was, tonight, you go after your father, he's tired, you could catch him, you could kill him. And if you don't go tonight, don't even think and dream of winning this war. He's going to regroup, he's going to rejuvenate, and you have no chance. And Avshalom, mistakenly, good for David HaMelech, that is Min HaShamayim, that he did not ignored the Etzah of Achitofel. He went with his other advisors' opinion, waiting to regroup himself and strengthen his troops and so on. And we know what the rest was history basically. His tremendous defeat that he experienced. But Achitophel knew it from first minute. From minute one, he knew that this is not going to. As soon as he saw that Avshalom is not listening to him, he went home. He wrote his sava'ai, he wrote his will, and he hung himself. But that story gets kind of like lost in the drama, not realizing that years before, David HaMelech had said a klala al tenai, which the tenai did not really fulfill, but the chacham shekilel afilu al tenai yavo. So says Gemara. He told him mutar. He said, Chacham, David mutar. Shari, cut off Shem. So therefore, David HaMelech did exactly that. He wrote the Shema Meforash, Achaspa, Veshadi letehoma. He threw it into the tehom, Venachit tehoma, Shitzar alfi garmidi. So he went down 16,000 measures of garmidi over here. Right? Amot. He went 16,000 amot down. Kichazi, the nachit tuva, that's too much already. Right? You need some water to be up on the surface for the world to exist also. So it says the Gemara, Amar Kama the midli tefe mirtav alma. You need more moist for the world to operate. So Amar 15 ma'alot. He said 15 shira ma'alot. Right, it's stated in Tehillim from Kuf Chaf to Kuf Lamed Dalet. Ve'aske chamesar alfe garmidi, and each one of them rose the level of water 1,000 garmidis. So 15,000 minus 16,000 minus 15,000, they stayed at ve'ukmeh be'alfe garmidi, 1,000 garmidis below the surface, which would be now the proper distance, not destroying, not being damageful, but at the same time not being too low to provide the moisture and the water that the world needs. Amar Ula Shramina Sumcha da Arba Alfe Garmidi. That the thickness of this until Tehom is 1,000 Garmidi. So now the Gemara is going to still deal with it. We have to come back to this anyways to discuss it. Chazinan, the Kairam Purta, the Gemara says, well, we dig much less than that, and we hit the water. V'nafkimaya amar meshar she'au misulama de Prat. That is from the river of Frat, which again we're going to discuss exactly what this means and go on to the next Mishnah Be'ezrat Hashem in the next Shiur. Hazaku Baruch.